Hey guys, it's Dory. Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be doing a recipe today. My husband and I are going to do it in a couple different parts, but basically we are going to make keto noodles, and I'm making some meatballs on the side, and we're kind of going to do like a beef stroganoff type thing. We're going to use mushrooms, and this will be definitely a dish that you can use whether you're using low carb or you are keto or paleo. But I'm starting out, I have a pound of grass-fed ground beef and 1 pound of ground sausage. I have that in here right now. To this, I'm going to add, this is parsley and onions, and it's already been cut up and everything. So I'm gonna add that in here. And let me get that. Recently, I have discovered Fresh Jack's seasonings through Erica from Time to Shrink. She has a coupon code underneath all of her videos. So I'm actually going to be using some of the herbs from Fresh Jack's. This is the garlic herb seasoning blend, and I'm probably doing about 2 tablespoons. And then I'm also going to use their toasted onion. I really love the flavor that this brings out. Even though we already have onion in there, I really enjoy this. And that's about another 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to be using Parmesan cheese, which is going to help to bind it. And then I'm also going to be using some nutritional yeast or brewer's yeast. It just is something that helps to also bind it and soak up some of that juice. And normally I would put in my Italian meatballs pre-diet and surgery, I would use regular bread, but I've discovered this bread. It's from the Great Low Carb Bread Company, and at each slice is only 1 gram of carbs, 1 gram of net carbs. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna use 3.5 slices in here. And then I'm also going to use, to help it to stick together, I'm going to use 2 eggs, which I actually forgot. So hopefully my husband hears me and knows that I need 2 eggs from the refrigerator. Look at that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to work this together. And I will let you guys see how this looks once I add the eggs. Just really trying to incorporate everything. Of course, if it looks like I need some more of a dry ingredient, I will go in with the Parmesan cheese. That works really well and it gives it a really good flavor. This, of course, will have the flavor of like a mushroom cream sauce when we're done. But for now, I'm just trying to get it all incorporated in. Use the bread, and of course I will need to go in with the Parmesan cheese just to soak it up a little bit more. This should give us a good amount of little meatballs. I'm gonna actually bake them in the oven at 375 for about, I would say, I'm gonna guess about 15 minutes. And that should give us the consistency that we're gonna want, and it'll be cooked almost thoroughly at that point. And then we'll make our noodles, which are going to be keto. They should, if we do it correctly, they should look like regular noodles and even have the consistency of regular noodles. We're using some different ingredients that we purchased recently on Amazon, which is really exciting that they do have a lot of different ingredients that help us to mimic the high carb foods that we no longer eat. So this does look very well incorporated. I'm actually going to grab 1 more slice of this low carb bread. Also, they have really good bagels, and they actually sell pasta at that low carb company. We have enjoyed their fettuccine. We made a great recipe with that not too long ago. But we are going to try this out, and I have been craving more of the comfort foods lately, especially the stroganoff and cream sauce, or the soup that we made yesterday that you guys saw the video up already. My husband and I cooked together in the kitchen yesterday, and we made that delicious soup that was a mock version of the potato and leek soup, and it came out amazing. So this is all set. I'm going to roll it into little balls onto a baking sheet, and I'll be back to show you guys what it looks like when it's out of the oven. All right, guys, so this is what the meatballs should look like. Some are a little bit bigger than the others, but it's fine. They'll go in at 375 for about 20 minutes.
Hey, all right, so now we're gonna work on this keto pasta. Stand mixer is like a great way to do it. You don't have to. If you watch any sort of pasta video, you'll see guys doing it right on the countertop, put the flour in the egg, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's really messy, it's really complicated. This is way easier, less messy, easier to clean up. And we don't need to look fancy. So that's what we're gonna use. First thing we're starting out with, oat fiber. It's important, fiber. Not oat flour. That's something totally different. Oat flour is just ground up oats. Oat fiber is just the fiber. So there's no carb whatsoever. Half a cup. Okay, half a cup right into the bowl. Then the next thing, this is kind of like the magic ingredient for this, and it's, excuse me, it's vital wheat gluten. So if you are, if you have celiacs, right, if you have an allergy to gluten, this recipe is not for you, because it does in fact have the wheat gluten in it. But when you look at the stats, right, let's check it here. You've got quarter cup is a serving size, 110 calories, 4 grams of carbohydrates, 1.5 of fat, and 23 grams of protein. So, it's high in protein. That's a good thing. It doesn't have much in the way of fat, so if you're looking to get fat, that's where your sauces come in handy. And it's still fairly low on the carb level. That's in a quarter of a cup. We're doing double that for a whole portion. This is not a portion, this is not a single serving portion, rather. Double that because it's half a cup that we're doing. Same half a cup scoop, right into the bowl. Okay, we got that in there. So I'm gonna pop this just so you guys can kind of see. There it is in there, okay. Next, we're gonna put all of the dry ingredients in first, before any of the wet ingredients, all right? So we have salt. We need about, you know, half a tablespoon of salt, which is a little bit difficult to do in this salt shaker. I could go and get regular salt, but I'm not gonna. Here's a cool trick. You can grind the salt. We don't actually have to grind this salt because ours happens to be really fine. We just like refill this with regular salt. But shake, tap, 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 and then very carefully pop it open and look at that. Salt. Of course, we're measuring about, this is a tablespoon right here. We're gonna measure about half of a tablespoon, which I think I have. The rest of that salt can go back in there. Cap goes on, set that aside. I believe I got about half a tablespoon of salt. Just a disclaimer, this is not my original recipe. I actually found this recipe on the internet and I was pretty excited about it. So we're going with it. Someone else's recipe. This, excuse me, let me tell you, xanthan gum. You need about half a teaspoon. So this is now the teaspoon. This is a cool spoon. Me and my wife we go to Rhode Island every year, and we got it in some tea store there. So there's a tablespoon, teaspoon, pretty cool. That's xanthan gum. Put it in there. You don't need to shake it around, just dump it in to be fine. Next thing, we're done with the dry ingredients. Now we're going to put olive oil. okay? This is extra virgin, kind of doesn't really matter, but you're looking at a half tablespoon. With liquid, doing a half tablespoon, a little bit harder. So we'll just fill this halfway, close enough. There you go, drop that in. Now we don't actually need that anymore because nothing else is going to be measured to exact proportions. So, we're gonna do eggs. There are 2 beaten eggs in here, whole eggs, not just whites and yolks. They've already been beaten. You want to pre-beat them. Don't go dumping whole eggs into here. It won't work as well as if you beat the eggs ahead of time. So, there we go. We have beaten the eggs. No need for that bowl. We have this kind of attachment that we're going to be using. And we'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we put everything in there that you saw, and then I actually turned on the mixer, put it on 2. Okay, if you're using a mixer, setting of 2, all right? And then it's been going for about a minute or so. It's not ready, but I just want to kind of show you what it looks like. And it's sticky. You can see it sticking to my fingers there. So it's definitely not ready, but this is kind of what it will appear like. And you can see it's almost starting to, you know, like you're used to regular bread dough. So the idea, as I understand it, kind of from a scientific standpoint, is the gluten needs to be worked just like in a traditional dough. So we're going to go ahead and mix this some more. You don't need to see it just mixing, but we'll come back when it's closer.
All right, guys, so these is out of the oven. Had about 20 minutes in the oven. This is what they look like. Of course, this one's kind of like a funny one. This was the crust of the bread. Kind of just came out and got a little hard. I'm sure once we get the cream sauce, the cream mushroom sauce over them, they are going to be fabulous, but they do smell very, very good.
Okay, guys, so now we've let the dough rest. I'm going to be honest with you guys, so this is actually kind of our second attempt here. So what we did was we made a batch. We worked it out, but it was a little bit tough to roll it out and do what we needed to do. So we ended up deciding not to film that one. Didn't work. So we just made another batch. The recipe isn't changed from what you saw, so it is the same thing. The only difference is what you didn't see is about a tablespoon of water. I will tell you, between the 2 batches, you're going to want to mix it up first without that tablespoon of water, just like you saw us do. Then, once everything gets mixed and incorporated, add a tablespoon of water. All right? This is kind of what it'll look like. It stretches, kind of tears a little bit, looks very much, you know, like bread dough, like you might expect bread dough or pasta dough. You're going to take, this is the oat fiber, remember, fiber not flour, and we're doing it right on our tabletop, which is cleaned, but we're just going to sprinkle it like that. Let's get a little bit more. Never know how far down on the table we're going to go. Of course, a little bit right here. Okay. We're going to put it there, plop, plop, flip it around, get it coated on there, and then last thing, of course, is the rolling pin. Oh, shoots up in the air. You want to get it on the rolling pin, and we're going to do this. Rolling it out. You're not getting it all the way with this, at least I'm not, because I happen to have a pasta roller. Okay, so I'm going to be using that. You don't need to use a pasta roller. It will take you longer without a pasta roller, because then you'll have to roll this all the way with the rolling pin. So that's also going to be a lot of, you know, a lot of work, a lot of elbow grease for that. All right. You can see it's still kind of stretchy. It keeps wanting to go back to its original state. A little bit different than some of your more traditional doughs. When you're using regular flour, that reaction is a little bit less, but it's still going to be just fine. So again, we're rolling out as kind of, you know, thin as I want to get it. Essentially, I want it to be as thin or as thick as the largest setting on my pasta roller, or just slightly bigger than that, and the pasta roller will thin it out. But the idea is, if you have a pasta roller and you put it in there and it's too thick, then what will happen is it'll actually like tear the dough, and it won't come out the way that you're looking for it to come out. So the other thing too, this is gonna actually, I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm gonna go grab a pizza cutter real quick to do that. Be right back. And would you look at that? My pizza cutter turned into a knife. There you go. Someone's laughing at me. I think it's funny. It is funny, actually, because truth is, like a typical husband, I can't find anything. Thought I knew where the pizza cutter was. Apparently, I was wrong. So there you go. Give you an idea of the thickness. Okay, you can kind of see I can get it a little bit thinner than that, and I probably would like to. I'll just take this piece, which we're not going to work with right now. We're going to start off with this one. And I'm just going to put it here, and maybe we'll try to roll it out just a little bit thinner. It seems to be thicker at this end than at the other end. Okay, there we go. Don't worry about it being a perfect shape. It doesn't need to be. It's not really important here. Okay, and now we're going to take it and put it into the pasta roller. This is the little arm, goes in there. Again, you don't have to have a pasta roller. It is entirely possible, and you'll get almost the same results without one. Okay, the difference, this just saves you a little bit of elbow grease. And I don't know that we're going to show you this entire process because it's kind of like the same thing over and over again, but essentially you do about 2 or 3 times on each number. So mine has 7 numbers. So this is the 3rd time on number 7. Okay. After a few times of doing it, what happens is you'll notice this oat fiber that's all over it is going to actually start to like stick into it, and you won't have that anymore on the outside, and it may stick to your pasta roller. Or if you're doing the rolling pin, it may stick to your rolling pin. So what you do is you need to apply a bit more, okay, as time is going on. But I just went down to number 6 from 7, and like I said, I'm just going to keep doing that. About 2 to 3 runs through for each number on your pasta machine. All right, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to come back when I've got it much thinner. So this is it. It is very thin, very long, sort of stretchy. Okay, now obviously we could actually throw this in a pot. That's what we'll do. We'll throw it right in a pot just like this. We'll have the world's largest fettuccine. But of course, that's not what we're going to do. Just being silly. So we're actually going to take it, we'll fold it in half. Okay, have a look. It's not breaking apart. I really thought that by doing all this that it would just break apart, but it doesn't. Now, we don't want it that long either, so I fold it in half, then I fold it in half again. That really all depends on how long you want it. And then we're just going to take it and snip a little bit off the edge there. This is still good. In fact, there's a few pieces like this in the other batch. So then you come over to this side, same things, snip. And now you've got much shorter sheets. So what we're going to do, I have an attachment. I'm going to actually show you guys 2 methods. One being using this attachment if you have a pasta roller and have one of these attachments. Again, we're making fettuccine. You can make this into pappardelle, which is just double wide fettuccine. You could make this into spaghetti, linguine, any shape you want. In fact, and maybe we'll do this. this, you can actually use this to make ravioli shells. So there's something else to think about. But there it is. Now it's you're like, well, it didn't cut it, but it does. And if you can see, it puts these perforated lines in there. And then you take it and you try to separate it on those lines. Sometimes it comes in twos. You know, like that is, this is actually 2 pieces, but one piece is like a really thin piece. Believe it or not, when I was doing it before, it doesn't tear much. Every now and then, like that obviously tore that little piece, but for the most part, it doesn't like break. It stays long pieces. And here's a good one that I can show you an example. I'll force it, there we go. Just like that. Now that's 2 pieces here. Then I can separate those 2 pieces. You know, you gotta work with it. You gotta deal with your kids yelling in the background and arguing and fighting when they're supposed to know that we're filming. Kids do that. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have kids, God bless you. And so there we go. Now I'll separate the rest of these off camera. You don't have to see each little thing. But some of you are like, I don't have a pasta machine. What can I do? How can I cut them? Well, I'll show you. A bunch of ways to do it without a pasta machine, but nice and simple way. You don't have to do like, you'll see people do like a tight roll. No need. Just do this. Just fold it over multiple times. Doesn't need to be even. Doesn't need to anything. Take the knife. Run some of the flour just over the edge of the knife. A little bit of it will kind of stick. Perfect. And then you just take it and cut. Just like that. And again, you can do whatever size you want. Like if I wanted to do a really wide one. And there you go. Now that's like pappardelle, which is the really wide, like I said, the double wide fettuccine. But there it is. So that's from cutting it. Let's take one of these that I just cut. They unroll. And you have the fettuccine. Like I said, you can do any shape. You can even make pasta things with it. That's how it comes out. And next, of course, is boiling it and then making a sauce. We'll get back. Okay, guys. Here we are. Pasta. Nice big bowl of it. There's a lot of it. And we're actually got a pot of boiling water. I don't know if you can see. Maybe if I put my hand there, you can kind of see the steam. So we're just going to go ahead and drop it in. It really should cook very quickly. Should not take long at all because it's like fresh pasta. Fresh pasta cooks quicker than dried pasta. So now we just need to get a thing to stir it. And then we'll stir it. All right, this bowl right into the sink.
All right, guys, so we added the pasta, of course, as you saw. This is our first time making the pasta, so we're not sure how long it's really going to take. I think it's close to being done. So in this pan, we have a little bit of fat. We have some beef fat. We got it nice and hot, and we're going to actually put our mushrooms in here. And we're basically just going to saute these. Now, as you guys remember, I made the meatballs, and they were a tad bit too salty. So we are going to omit any salt going forward in the rest of this recipe. But if yours were not salty when you made them, I would add a little sprinkle of salt in this pan. We're just going to saute these up, and then we are going to add some scallions and saute that up, and then add, is that onion, babe?
Cheese.
Oh, that's the cheese. And then after the scallions, we're going to add the light cream. We'll, of course, come back as we add things, and then we'll let you guys see what it looks like in the end. So the mushrooms are done. Now I'm adding the scallions and parsley. I'm going to add those together. Just continue to stir. Oop, I flipped one of my little mushrooms out there. This smells really good. So we're going to get ready to add in our cream. I'll let you know how much. I'm going to guess we're probably putting in about, let's measure it for you. I'm going to guess it's going to be about 3 cups, but let's see what the box tells me. All right, let's start with 2 cups and see how that is. All right, this looks great. So this is going to reduce a little bit, of course, as we're cooking. And we are going to add a little bit of a thickener in, which is the sodium citrate is not a thickener. We are going to add about a teaspoon because this is actually what we found that helps the fat not to separate. So this is actually a really good thing to get on. We got ours on Amazon. We've made a dipping cheese sauce, sort of like Velveeta, but of course it doesn't have any carbs in it because we used pure cheese, and so that worked really, really well. So I'm going to say just that we're going to stick to the 2 cups of the cream. Right now we're going to add a little bit of xanthan gum so that way we can thicken it a tiny bit. Then we did drain the noodles already, and we're just going to stir this up a tad. I'm going to add the meatballs, and then we're going to pour this over the pasta that we made, and I will be back to show you guys the final product, and we will top it with some cheese that we just grated, fresh Gruyere cheese, and then we will taste it for you. All right, guys, so we put the meatballs in. We are letting this simmer kind of rapidly just to thicken a little bit more. We took the noodles and we put it in a bowl, which is right here. I topped the noodles with the meatballs and the sauce, and I topped that with the Gruyere cheese. It is fantastic. The noodles now, of course, are low carb. They're not going to be the greatest thing on earth, but I really do like them. Let me actually show you. So here is the pasta, the cheese. I have a meatball. What do you think, babe? Good, right?
Yeah, I had a little bit. Very
So
good.
that is really, really good. For a low carb meal, this is perfect. It actually is very comforting. Like, I feel like this would be something that you can curl up on a winter's night and eat and not have any guilt at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it doesn't turn out too long. And I hope you guys share with me if you make it and show me.